The issue of public housing, especially for those who are less fortunate, is a growing problem for the modern world. With the already demanding challenge of 1 out of 3 of the world's 3 billion people in cities living in poverty, the number expected to increase to 3 out of 5 by 2030, a solution for public housing must also be easy to apply at a monumental scale. Alejandro Aravena, along with Andres Iacobelli and Pablo Allard, sought to tackle this challenge when they formed Elemental while at Harvard University in 2000. With links to the Chilean government's dynamic social housing without debt program, Elemental has been given opportunities to make strides in the field of social housing in Chilean cities and worldwide. Despite their government connections, a continual lack of space and financial resources led to the need for innovative adaptations. As a result, Elemental worked with the concept of building half of a good house, leaving the remaining expansion customizations up to the individual households. This process has been applied in many projects, including the Quinta Monroy and Villa Verde settlements in Chile.
Incremental housing seeks to benefit low-income families and propose solutions that could improve their standard of living. Having residents help with construction as a way to help the lower-class population has been common and successful in Chile since the mid-20th century. Elemental seeks to use this approach to solve housing scarcity while maintaining high-quality housing. The company attempts to combat the triple gap as put by Alejandro Aravena through incremental housing. The triple gap is defined as the desperate need for more housing in Chile, the small sizes of housing as a result of resources available, and the long wait time for housing, which in turn leads to overcrowding. However, there is a disconnect between the architect and the resident, resulting in spatial limitations that hinder the resident and the architect. Although Elemental is mainly successful, a key flaw in the design was the unpredictable process of expansion, which consisted of providing total freedom to their residents in their expansion. This led to friction between the architect and the resident concerning expansion rules and the limited control over expansions subsidized by the government. Additionally, there is a lack of cooperation between the architect and the resident while designing the base house in Elemental's projects. This results in a base house that does not accurately reflect the specific needs and expectations of the resident. As this top-down attitude persists in Elemental's seemingly bottom-up projects, the disconnect between client and architect ultimately prevents their incremental housing projects from fully succeeding.
Elemental's first attempt at incremental housing occurred on the site of Quinta Monroy, located in the desert city of Iquique, Chile. Built in 2003, the project spans over an area of 5,000 meters squared, with each house on a 30 feet squared plot. Individually, the modular houses have 2 floors and only take 2/3 of this available space, with the remaining space available for expansion. The key issue Aravena sees in social housing is its depreciating value. As opposed to traditional housing, incremental housing as a concept aims to increase in value over time. The project was built around consideration for the smallest loan the Chilean government offered these squatter residents, $7,500.
Not relocating the squatter residents far from the campamento in Quinta Monroy and instead using the completely accessible government loan as a baseline for affordability made sure that no people would be taken away from their livelihoods and communities. This form of incremental housing has allowed this form of social housing to act as long-term investments, with every house in the Quinta Monroy project valued at more than $20,000 5 years after construction. The new approach gave the residents a sense of ownership not seen in the rest of the Chile Barrio program, a similar program meant to combat the housing crisis in Chile.
While Aravena made sure to build all that is necessary in a house in 2/3 of the space, the remaining third is still a significant amount of unbuilt space, which residents cannot fill up with the same quality materials and attention as Elemental did while initially building the building. Incremental housing in Quinta Monroy managed to establish itself as a housing option which increased in value over time, kept its community intact, and adhered to the smallest loan of the Chilean government. While incremental housing at Quinta Monroy fulfilled these lofty goals, it does so by placing unsustainable expectations on its residents, as they have to be able to fill a significant amount of space with less materials and knowledge compared to the firm Elemental.
Another one of Elemental's famous incremental housing projects is their half-a-house project, or Villa Verde, in Constitucion, Chile. Though originally funded by Arauco Forestry and intended to provide housing for their lumber workers, the project was also able to accommodate residents affected by the 2010 Chilean earthquake.
Many of these residents were forced to relocate because of the disaster, but fortunately because of the project, 60% of households were able to own a house with an income that was twice the minimum wage or less. Additionally, some residents were able to create small businesses on the bottom floor to earn income. After 4 years of expansions and utility upgrades, the residents rated the overall quality and comfort of their homes considerably higher than they initially did when they first moved in 2013.
Elemental did not anticipate many of the residents' expansion choices, which created problems that needed to be solved with government approval. Once families got their houses, they were left to their own devices without supervision from the firm. Residents disregarded the plans laid out for them, overstepping the boundaries given to them. Those who did follow the plan felt limited with the options given. Many residents were also forced to spend on additional fences or walls since the original house plans were close together and lacked privacy. Residents also complained that the housing development wasn't located close enough to other stores and amenities in town. Overall, Villa Verde was regarded as successful, inexpensive, and high-quality public housing project, but there could have been more improvements in communication between the residents and the architects.
In summary, incremental housing represents an innovative approach to the challenge of affordable housing. Designed by Alejandro Aravena and Elemental, the Quinta Monroy and Villa Verde stand out for their commitment to community engagement, flexible design, and phased construction. Their broad-based approach to construction that prioritizes residents' immediate needs while laying the foundation for future expansion follows the principles of affordability and adaptability. The social impact of incremental housing is significant, promoting a sense of community ownership and control as communities contribute to improving their own living environments.
However, a disconnect still existed between Elemental and the residents the firm was designing for. The architect had unrealistically high expectations for how the residents should expand and didn't anticipate the problematic ways that some expanded. For projects that emphasized community participation and a bottom-up approach to architecture, Quinta Monroy and Villa Verde still suffered from a top-down attitude.